And I like at a party, I'll just play a playlist of all local band, and people are like, "Who's that? You never seen them? They're like they play here. They're like, oh my god, they're amazing." Blah 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 blah.
Awesome.
And it's like we have so much good music, like you're saying, and we don't promote it as, why can't they play it at a show?
Well,
or at a, you know what I mean, like
so
background music.
So much better than the stuff that you can find through normal channels.
Right,
now.
right.
It's
Like
not what's on
I
the
feel like
radio,
if I should go to a bar and in between songs they would play like your stuff and like Red Light Motel, like whatever. We have all these bands that we're talking about.
Yeah,
they
I
should
love
be
Red
doing
Light
that
Motel.
because then you're exposing them instead of playing some thing that everybody can hear on
Jeremy
the radio on the way home.
introduced me to a documentary called Hype. And
Oh,
it
yeah,
really
that's right.
covers what it takes for a local band to make it and get promoted. And you want to talk about it? Because, I mean, that was a fantastic documentary.
Sure, I love it. And as soon as I met Scotty and Rico, and I had sort of some exposure to Garage to Nowhere, I knew that they would have to see it, and that there would be, we should really, Scotty, think about doing a whole other podcast on
Just
what it's
talking
like
about
to be a
that.
local
Yeah.
band.
I think we should, definitely do that,
and just talk about Hype. But just in brief, it is a story of the Seattle music scene, basically from 1985 to 1995. And so what you see is this scene that starts as a very, very small, sort of insular scene where the bands are sitting there and they're talking in interviews, and they're like, yeah, it was just us, and it was the other four bands that were playing that night. And those were the crowds for our shows.
Right.
To the point where it became, a national phenomenon. And obviously some very, very famous bands came out of there, and we got a lot of really wonderful music. But just going back, I'll just say for now, I think one of the most corrosive concepts ever in music is the idea of, and promoters love it. I hate it every time I hear it.
Oh, I know
Makes
what
me
you're
want
talking about.
a battle of the
Battle of
bands.
Bands.
Yeah.
I think
or
that
like
is-
best artist,
Yes.
best. I was like,
I think that is the worst idea ever.
This false competitiveness
Right.
between us that instead says, "Hey, we could all, be in
for
this
sure.
together."
Which I enjoy the whole band community. I like the fact that I can go to dive bar and see other bands, make friends with people. Hey, we should play a show together. And there's this whole brotherhood that comes along with it.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many times I've gone up to a band. It's so amazing because everybody's on guard. So now they've created this environment where everybody is like, you can't see me, but I'm kind of making a face like nobody come near me or whatever. That the bands are like nervous about what you're going to say to them. They're nervous about what you're going to do. And you say, hey, I really love your band.
Nah.
I want you guys to play with us again. And all of a sudden you will see the person's face change from, oh, I don't know what he's about, to, oh, this is the nicest thing ever. This is awesome. Right. Because there is so much competitiveness. I can't tell you how many bands we've played with that I've watched them and they're like, who are these dickheads?
Right.
Who are these people? Who do they think they are? Blah, blah, blah. And they don't mean it. They just have...
They were conditioned to kind of be that.
That's exactly right. They were just conditioned
and
to
that's
be
South
in that.
Florida in general.
Yeah, in
I mean,
general. With everything, you're right. Yeah. Like, I never even put that together. That is just kind of the norm down here.
And it's
be
very, very hard.
A little
Guard
on
is
edge.
up.
Yeah, a little on edge.
And
Kind of
I
like New
can't-
York, too, like where people are like, what do you want from me? That kind of thing,
And the truth is, it's very easy to break through that. Like, you just go up to them and you say, like, I look at bands called, I look at Bitter Blue Jay. I look at Sometimes Chad. I look at Any Other Color. I look at Pinkfoot Goliath. I see all these other bands, and I'm like, I love your band.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly think your band is great. I enjoy watching you guys. I think you're fantastic. And they don't even know what to do. They're like, you what?
Right.
You're in a band. You're not supposed to like us. You're supposed to think you're better than us.
Right.
And I'm like, I really don't. I really just want to play shows with you guys.
Right.
You know, so that's kind of like what winds up
Right.
happening.
You end up being with me. It's funny because I'm being Hispanic. I think you can probably we love dancing. We're like very outgoing people. I become the hype guy. Like I'll be like up front dancing and like a band that I just heard because they're awesome and I don't care. I like dance to your
Absolutely.
and they come down. It's like, oh man, you were digging it. You were like, I'm like, yeah, man, you guys are awesome. And then we become friends, and that's how it kind of happens.
And touching on Jeremy's point about that you see everybody lining up, because there's usually these shows we play 3 at a time, and the other band shows up and they're all like tense and tight, and they're like, I don't know what's going on, and then they get up there and everything like melts away because it happens for us, and we just play, and they're having a good time, and you can see that they're having a good time together. Right. Like one of the funnest bands that I saw locally at the dive bar was a group of kids from Hialeah called Galaxy Beat. they were just having a blast, you know, and we're like, hey, we liked playing with you guys, and they were like that too. They're like, wow, you old guys, you like our stuff, cool,
That's really cool.
So yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
There's
Sorry.
He took his mic really,
Yeah, I just-
really like forcefully,
Really aggressively grabbed the mic out of his. No, I was just going to say, I mean, my dream is to play songs with these other bands.
Right.
I think it would be really fun to do a band where we all could agree on a cover and say,
Right.
hey, you don't have to do much for this song, but it's like,
Right.
it's While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Like, take a
Right.
solo in E minor. Let's
Yeah.
roll with it, you
Yeah.
know?
Well,
Yeah.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame kind of thing, end of the
yeah,
night,
yeah. What
everyone
was
gets
that
up
band?
there.
What was that band?
No, I thought a similar idea, and I think that's a great idea. Like we should get that thing going because that'd be fun, a lot of fun to do. I'm going to wrap. Yeah, we're going to wrap this up. You guys have any kind of thing, anything you'd like to follow up with before we get out of here?
So, the song that I think we're going to exit with, which is off of the album, is Daedalus. It was, in its genesis, something that was written during the time that Jeremy and I were kind of locked in his own apartment, trying to just like hammer out songs, and he had pieces here and I had pieces there, and trying to tie things together in ways that weren't. And the song sort of came off as this sort of amorphous, epic, but it didn't really. It wasn't until it started to really refine itself with just the way that passing over something over and over again would, that suddenly you found the solid beams that would be the core of the song. And it really, I don't know, it harkens back to old stuff from the 70s in that it has this just breathless Pink Floyd-ish, Yes, Rush kind of thing going on with it that just, I really love the way the song came together. What Jose does on the vocals with it, what Sean does on the drums in it, it takes you in so many different directions, and it builds on it and builds as the song goes, and it really is just something that I'm really proud to have been able to be a part of it.
That's really.
And,
I actually looked up what Daedalus is.
right?
I'm going to read this real quick. It
Please.
says Daedalus was a craftsman and artist in Greek mythology who had two sons, Icarus and Ipex.
Wow, yeah.
I think that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
He is best known as the creator of the Labyrinth, a huge maze located under the court of King of Minos of Crete, where the Minotaur, a half-man, half-bull
That's right, yep.
creature, dwelt.
Wow,
I was like,
look
that
at
was
you doing.
really-
This is why he's in the podcast as
So-
well, because he's the researcher and informationist.
So if you'll notice on the album, actually the cover of our album is when you open the gatefold of the CD out, it's a set of wings. And you guys will be able to see this on Spotify once the album drops on 2/1. And the idea,
February 1st.
right? The lyric "Dark Horizon" line actually comes out of the song Daedalus, and the wings actually come from Icarus because it is
Right.
from the point of view of a father who lost his son,
Right.
maybe to his own hubris.
Right.
That's the concept behind it. I'll tell you a couple of other fun facts about Daedalus. The first one is I do what I consider quite a self-indulgent guitar solo. There's a very long guitar solo at the end of that song.
30
and-
minutes.
Yeah, pretty much 35.
27.
27.
It's really not that long.
But if you'll notice one thing, there is a lot of repetition in that solo. So what I sort of do is I will play the same line 3 times or 4 times in a row, or I'll play the same line 5 times in a row. And I got that idea from Freebird by Leonard Skinner. If you actually listen to Freebird, one of the things they do is they'll play the same solo line over and over
Right.
as the bass and the drums change underneath it. And so that's sort of where the concept for that solo came. And then the other one is the Seraphonics as a group very rarely writes lyrical stanzas of 4. We usually write in like 3+1 or 2+1. This is kind of a weird musical point, but this is one of the only songs where you'll have a 4 stanza line. Across the dark horizon line we sailed,
Everything rhymes on the end, and
everything rhymes on the end, so it creates all these nice little bows, which
it's so
makes
traditional. It's
it a good end song.
untraditional.
It's sort of a weird throwback song for us because we're very big. I don't like doing anything 4 times in music because I know that's a very, very common rule about 4. So people will get together and they'll write a riff and they'll say, I have a cool riff. and their solution to arranging the song will be, okay, we'll play this riff 4 times.
All right.
Right. And then play this next riff 4 times.
It's a formula kind of thing.
Right. And then we'll go back to the next riff 4 times. And I remember telling Noah when we started, I said, look, I don't want to do anything 4 times ever in the history of ever. Like, we've got to figure out a way to not do things 4
Break
times.
out of the
You know,
It was not a hard sell on that one.
yeah, and so what wound up happening was Daedalus. We actually do things 4 times, and it's very, very purposeful. Like we wanted
it that way. Yeah.
We wanted it to have that sort of feeling of completion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
that
awesome.
that being the last song on the album, and it sort of wraps up an interesting narrative that's sort of a sort of rise and falling action.
Right.
And I'm gonna let Jose, get a word in because he's gonna.
Absolutely not. I was just like, I just wanted to bring that up.
he
There
wanted
was
to
a
be aggressive,
story
take the mic again.
that they have absolutely left out of this whole process.
But you know-
That you're following somebody throughout this whole album, and that story is they're just kind of like telling it over a campfire.
Oh.
Learn from this, and
That's cool.
that last part they're not learning from it. All hail Daedalus.
Right. I have to go back now and really listen to lyrics and pick up on
with
those
intent.
nuances. But I
That's
do
really-
enjoy how you've really thought out everything in this album.
Right.
Like whether it's the timing issues or the naming the songs and the meanings behind everything. It's fantastic.
Right. That's
Thank
really
you.
cool. And we've had a really, really good time.
Thank you
Just
for
hanging
sitting down
out and
with
talking
us.
about this. Like,
We've had a great time.
Yeah.
I could honestly, I could sit down for another 8 hours and talk.
because
I
part
really
2
love-
after the album comes out, we're giving it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We'll have to go write another album.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
Hey, there you go.
Which came right.
All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank
Yeah,
you
man.
very much.
Awesome. Well,
you.
we'll see you guys soon.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
And go listen to those songs on Spotify.
Yes, 140,000 times.